The suspension of cattle movement has been extended in a bit to curb foot and mouth disease. We've always had foot and mouth disease in the country, but it's got really bad this time around. The Agriculture Department says 11 new outbreaks of this disease have been recorded across Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State, bringing the total number of infected cattle to 127. The suspension on the movement of cattle in this country has been extended in a bit to stop this. South Africa's red meat and livestock industry are suffering. They've been the hardest hit following this ban on the transport of cattle. So where do we go now? Dipe Penene Serache is the acting Deputy Director General for the Department of Agriculture. Hi, good morning and welcome to 702.
Hi, good morning. How are you? Good morning to your listeners as well.
Good to have you on. First question, how bad is this outbreak?
It's bad because it has covered many other areas, and it's bad because it's found now in areas that it's not expected to happen. In that sense, it's bad.
Sure.
But as of today, the situation is improving.
Okay, it's improving. What is foot and mouth disease to start with?
It's a viral disease. It affects all cloven hooven, all the split-hoofed animals, pig, sheep, goat, cattle, and all the antelopes and wild animals that those that have a split hoof.
Okay, it's interesting.
It's infectious, and it's infectious through contact, and the latest studies show that it looks like it also is infectious through air movement in between, pretty much like COVID-19.
Oh, right. Okay, sort of a COVID-19 for animals. You say the situation has improved somewhat.
Yes, you see the additional positives or outbreaks that we reported this week about. There's a chance that at the time when we initiated the ban, the animals might already have been positive. So it's not much as, but in reporting terms, we've got to add it. But there's a likelihood that these were already positive, and as you know, the incubation period is 2 weeks. So there's a higher possibility that the numbers as we've added might have already been positive at the time of the ban.
Yeah. So transportation has been restricted. What does this mean? I mean, how long are we facing? And also, is this going to affect the red meat market?
We are watching the space very, very carefully. The intention is to lift the ban after 21 days, which is pretty much next week. We may not lift the ban throughout the country, but because, again, like you're asking, we don't want the ban to affect the economy, especially the livestock farming. We don't want it to shoot up the price of meat. So we are carefully monitoring the situation. But as things stand, there are no challenges. The supply there is still enough stock for supply, and we hope by the time we make a decision sometime next week whether to lift or not, we would have would be in a more encouraging situation to lift.
Yeah.
We are intimating a possibility of lifting some of the provinces, not all, of course.
Yeah. This ban on transportation, how wide is it? Are some exempt from it?
Yeah, basically the whoever transports the livestock, cattle specifically, anywhere in the country from one point to another is breaking the law, and if found will be arrested and prosecuted.
Sure.
So cattle may not be moved anywhere from one destination to the other, may not be moved from one camp to the other. So it's a standstill.
Yeah, sure. That's quite something. It's also quite worrying because you mentioned it's found in the wild. So can you contain that? I mean, how prevalent is foot and mouth with wild animals? I'm thinking about the game reserves.
Luckily, game reserves are fenced, in inverted commas. They are controlled. So animals within that area, hence we did not include a game in this specific standstill. We because the risk and the outbreaks were found to be within the cattle industry, and within the normal livestock farming. So we did not include game in this specific case. But game as things stand, we only have cases in the KZN, Tlhahluwa, Umfolozi Game Reserve area. That's where we've got serious challenges as far as the outbreak is concerned. But other game reserves throughout the country have not reported any. And anyway, science tells us that buffaloes might be positive without showing symptoms. So it may be difficult to tell if the game has the disease or not.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, so to try and contain that is sort of next to impossible. But this would also mean traditional ceremonies where the slaughtering of cows is essential. These ceremonies are also being affected, aren't they?
They are affected. What we have been considering would be weddings and funerals, and also then as long as it's from within. If you look at a communal area or a traditional area set up, you would have cattle within the same village slaughtered. We would allow those and with under strict supervision of state veterinarians. But other ceremonies, as you would have seen, even with the KZN at His Majesty King Zulu, the situation that the ceremony that they held, we have asked them not to bring cattle. Ordinarily, that event would lead to thousands of cattle being brought to the kraal. But this time around, we've asked them, and we thank them so very much for understanding, and they did not move cattle during that ceremony.
Yeah.
So yes, the other traditional ceremonies, we are still really hoping the country would listen. We are hoping that the come next week when we do make a final determination, we would be able to open other provinces.
I said in my intro that 127 cattle had been infected so far. Has that number grown?
Yeah, let's just correct it. 127 outbreaks. This would be outbreak 1. It's either a farm or a feedlot or whatever. So 127 situations, 127 events, if you like. So that is where we are. It means you'd have feedlots, you'd have farms, you'd have, in most cases, it's feedlots, you'd have farms, you'd have auction pens, you'd have this and that, up to a count of 127.
Right.
As at yesterday, the number wasn't increasing. We collect this information every week. So this Friday would be sure, which is tomorrow, we'll be able to tell if we have additional outbreaks or not. But as things stand, we do not foresee any except, the ones that we've already reported on.
And when it comes to vaccinations, like we've had with COVID-19, everyone got their shots. Is there a similar situation with livestock? Is there any type of medication that does work in maybe alleviating or even stopping this to some degree?
Yes. The first thing we do after, which is slightly different from in humans, the first thing we do after an outbreak is reported is, one, to isolate them, make sure that we isolate them from the others, and we vaccinate. Vaccination in this specific case has shown to do two things. One, to stop the spread, to stop the spread of the virus from one animal to the other, and also to basically also limit the symptoms on the animal itself. The extent of symptoms on the animal itself.
Right.
So we do vaccinate, and as all the other deep tanks that we call them deep tanks, basically meaning where if it's either you call a deep tank or you have a feedlot or abattoir. Deep tank meaning the area where, in most cases, communal animals would gather for other, either for dipping or for related livestock handling activities.
Okay.
So we vaccinate all of those. So far, we've vaccinated 90% of all those that are positive have been vaccinated.
Right. Oh, okay. Final question. So it's too early to say whether the red meat market will be affected. I saw one newspaper headline saying by Christmas you may not have red meat. Is that a little bit too dramatic?
No, they're just too dramatic. They're over-sensitive. There's a balance. Remember, some of the meat that we consume in the country is imported. So that is just causing an unnecessary alarm. And let me use this platform that is given us to correct that myth. We've got enough supply stock of meat in the country, red meat and poultry. And there are imports that we would, once we open, the movement, imports will still come in. So there's not. In fact, South Africa does not consume, not even 60% of beef that is produced. Most of it gets exported and it's supplemented with import. So there's a mix. So it cannot be that we would face a December with meat shortages. No, that's not true.
Love it. Dipapanene Serache, who's the acting Deputy Director General at the Department of Agriculture. Thanks for clearing that up for us. I do appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.